Hello, and welcome to episode 49 of Intercultural Insiders. My name is John McGraw, and I help newcomers, expats, and businesses connect across cultures to succeed in less time and pain. I am the founder of Hyaku Coaching, which is dedicated to helping you create your pathway to success in a new culture. The purpose of Intercultural Insiders is to share the stories of people with intercultural experiences. So if you're feeling isolated or lost, you can hear something from the guests' experiences that could help you, even if it's just a reminder that you're not alone. Today is part one of a two-part conversation with Dhara Majmundar. But before we get into that, I have a few announcements to make, and one that's very personal to me as well. As of tomorrow, it's the 1 year anniversary of Intercultural Insiders. The first episode was streamed on October 19th last year. And that episode was just me with no guests, introducing the concepts of the show and explaining the topics that we would be covering. So to think that it's been a full year, it's been quite the journey, and I feel that the show has come quite a way since then. We've had about 25 guests, ranging from successful immigrants to Canada to expats who have relocated outside of Canada, and those who also work with newcomers and immigrants to help them adapt to life in Canada. And from all of those conversations, there's been a great deal of insights that I would like to share and plan to revisit in some other projects coming up in the future. So 1 year, wow, that's quite a bit to consider, to take in. Now, coming to some other events, another event that's actually coming up today is how to shatter ceilings, leadership in the financial sector with CIBC and Simply. This is being held by TNO, the neighborhood organization, and also the United Way. It's happening today at 1 p.m. from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time today. So in collaboration with the generous support of the United Way Greater Toronto, TNO is delighted to present this outstanding opportunity. This event brings together the expertise of 5 mentors from CIBC and Simply Financial, and it's an ideal opportunity for newcomer finance professionals aspiring to reach finance leadership. With the support of United Way, TNO offers the following: gain insights from financial experts, understand the Canadian financial industry and the opportunities within CIBC and Simply, uncover inspiring personal stories from our industry panelists, learn effective strategies for setting and achieving your career objectives, receive practical advice on enhancing your skills, certifications, and qualifications, discover how to effectively showcase your international experience, and boost your confidence in interviews and networking with proven techniques. So that is coming up today in less than an hour. Starting at 1 p.m. So don't miss out on this exceptional event. You can see the QR code coming up here just on the screen. So you can register for that. It's not too late, just happening at 1 p.m. today. I think it can be a great opportunity if you're interested in working in the financial industry. And coming up in early November, November 2nd, is the event with Latin Project Management Network, Coaching a Project Manager's Superpower, which is a hybrid event in downtown Toronto, Thursday, November 2nd at 6 p.m. The Project Management Institute, PMI, defines power skills as the behaviors that enable people to succeed. Coaching is part of a leadership style that involves recognizing team members' strengths, weaknesses, and motivations to help them improve. In this workshop, the panelists will discuss how project managers can utilize coaching techniques to achieve business results through people. I will be a guest speaker along with HR professional and Brilliant Minds Group CEO Dinesh Sharma. To find out more details and to register, follow this QR code on the screen, More details will be forthcoming in the next few weeks. And speaking of events coming up in November, from the Intercultural Skill Labs comes the Culture of Cohesion Summit 2023. That happening on November 14th, all day. Diversity, so it's culture of cohesion, building interculturally inclusive and effective teams. Diversity shapes the workforce. Inclusion makes it work. Less talk and more action. The Culture of Cohesion Summit brings together inclusion executives, researchers, and experts to showcase real-world solutions for successfully managing intercultural teams. The theme for this full-day summit is Taking Action, where experts will unpack successfully applied inclusion strategies, projects, and studies, focusing on what has worked or the wisdom gained from what hasn't. The program includes a keynote address and 2 panel discussions. Breaking Barriers explores models for innovative, inclusive practices in skeptical environments. Building Bridges showcases best practices for managing interculturally diverse teams effectively, both upwards and downwards. To find out more and to register for this event, follow the QR code on the screen. Again, this is a topic that means a great deal to me. I think there will be a lot of valuable insights there. And with all of those events announced, it's time to get onto our main focus, which is part 1 of the conversation with Dhara Majmundar. So Dhara is a seasoned talent acquisition professional with more than 10 years in technical recruiting. She has lived, worked, and studied in 3 different countries. She immigrated to Canada more than 8 years ago and is settled quite well here in Canada. So some of the things that we talk about today include cultural diversity. Dhara shares her experiences with cultural diversity in India, the United States, and Canada, and she emphasizes the importance of avoiding stereotypes and assumptions when dealing with people from different cultures. And the journey to talent acquisition. Dhara's journey from an IT consulting to talent acquisition is a testament to the power of diverse experiences. So we're going to be hearing quite a bit about her experiences there. She has a lot to share. And as mentioned with previous episodes, the interview itself is recorded, but if you have been paying attention to the chat, you can see that Dhara is live in the chat, and I'll even share some of the comments that she has been making so you can see. And that means that you can also comment as well in there. So I encourage you to share that. I seem to be having some trouble sharing the comments on the screen today. Perhaps we can resolve that in a little bit. But you can be rest assured if you are watching the show and participating, Dhara is live in the chat, so she can answer any comments that you have, anything that comes up. So feel free to ask questions to her or to myself, to comment. Use this as an opportunity to connect with not only Dhara and myself, but with other audience members as well. And again, you can do this even if the comments are not being shared on the screen. So looking forward to showing you part 1. So without further wait, let's get into part 1 of the conversation with Dhara Majmundar. Dhara, could you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me, John. I'm very excited to be here in this space. About me, I'm a seasoned talent acquisition professional. I have done more than 8 years into IT recruiting. I've worked in India, US, and Canada. I deal with a variety of people so far and different cultural experiences. And currently, I've started my personal career coaching services. So I try to help job seekers, especially newcomers, recent grads, and anybody who would like to reach their career path. So I try to help them with whatever knowledge and experience I have.
I can see that you've got quite a wealth of experiences. I'd like to hear a little bit about some of your earlier cultural experiences. And I've heard quite a bit about the diversity just within India in terms of the languages, the cultures. So I'm Wondering if you have any experiences there that you could speak to.
That's right. So India has 29 states and 102 official languages. So
Oh,
definitely there is a variety. I'm coming from western part of India, from Gujarat. And even in my state, there's one language, Gujarati, but it has a lot of dialects. So after every 10 villages, you see a different dialect. In terms of that cultural diversity, when I came to Canada, I was sitting on a bus stop one day and somebody passed through and they said, Sastriyakal. So I said, Namaste. He said, no, but you are Indian, so you say Sastriyakal. I said, but I'm not Punjabi. So he said, no, all Indians are Punjabi. They say Sastriyakal. I was like, no. I was like, why do you think that? If you are Indian, you have to be Punjabi. I had an interesting conversation there. And for him, it was eye-opening thing that not all Indians do the same thing. I really like that you understand that people from India are coming from different parts and there's a lot of variety within one country itself. Because something really bothers me here in Canada is that people think that if you are from India and someone else from India, that means you will get along. Not necessary. Just like any other country, any other culture, we all come from variety of educational backgrounds, variety of cultural backgrounds, variety of thought processes too, right? So not necessary that just because I'm Indian, someone is Indian, he will be thinking the same way.
I can see how it could be a bit annoying. I think it is something that we can be guilty of when we think about other cultures that maybe we haven't had much exposure to. Sometimes, for example, Canadians and Americans, there's a tendency to confuse them and assume that we're basically the same. Even when I'm talking about cultural tendencies, I feel I have to be careful. I do think that's to some extent useful just in terms of being aware that there are differences from what you're expecting, but it's not an excuse to shut your brain off by saying, oh, okay, this person is from India or this person is from Canada, so that means they're like this and this. Pay attention to what's going on, what's coming from the other person that you're dealing with, being aware of the tendencies, but without stereotypes or making assumptions. You mentioned that you had lived and worked in the US and in Canada. I know that you are a citizen of Canada as well. You went to the US first, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What was that experience like? And what stood out for you about that?
When I went to US, it was the first time when I was going out of the country. It was in 2007. And I was not habitual of going out even within my country. In Indian society, girls don't go out just like that on their own. So you always go out with somebody. And my mother used to be always with me. So for me, it was a very new experience. When first time I was on the airport and standing in the queue with my luggage on my own, I was so nervous that the security guard came to me and he said, "It's this first time going outside." He could sense that I'm super conscious and I'm super anxious. Coming to US was literally, I was feeling that it's like Alice in Wonderland. So that was my perception about what I was going through. So for the first time in US, I saw that when you try to enter into a door, the door opens on its own. And that was the magic for me. And even if I was in Philadelphia, it was not that cold, but even in 15 degrees, I used to wear 3 layers. I still remember. So it was very different for me. And I was studying there at the Temple University. And in my class, there were 2 parts, whites and black. And I was totally unaware about all those tension or cultural or historical aspects. And in one of my lectures, one of my teachers showed a cake dance. So it was part of history. And in the other class, my teacher used to ask, what did you study in that class? So I said, oh, we studied cake dance and it was part of history. I was the only one who was talking about it and everybody else was not saying anything. And my teacher didn't say anything. He said, oh, good to know. And then she carried on. And usually we discuss about every topic. Why this topic she's keeping aside. And then after the class, one of my classmates, she grabbed me and picked me in the corner and she said, do you have any idea what were you doing? I said, what? She said, cake dance is cultural dogma. It's like a stigma. They don't like to talk about it. It's not like a pride. So if you will talk about this thing on the street, somebody will shoot you. So in this class, it's okay. We all understand that you are new and you don't understand, but then to talk about this. So I had no idea, right? And for me, I had black people were my friends, whites were my friend, but I could see the tension at times that how if a black driver is bus driver, sometimes they don't stop the bus if someone in white is standing there. And then I hear complaints from both the parties. And there I actually learned that there are lots of historical roots involved, why people still react in certain way even in today. So I know this all sounds very racial, but for me, it was all for the very first time because I even didn't know the history. And when I came to Canada, I first time learned about the Underground Railroad thing. So it was all like connecting the dots that what I heard and learned over there. And then I saw proper history here. Long story short, staying in US was quite an experience. That was the first time where I had a lot of cultural shock because the way you talk, the jargon, the idioms you use. English is English, but it seems to be something very different.
I'm glad that you were able to get informed about what was going on. And then coming up to Canada as well. Were there things that you were able to notice quickly or that you were aware of? Do you feel that there is much difference overall?
Yeah, I think there is a difference. So when I was in US, A, it was huge, and B, people were expecting you to know everything. Because I was new, and in India, we don't have instructions for everything. It's always about asking each other and finding your way out. I was not that habitual of reading instructions and following arrows and looking at the map. I had zero idea when somebody say go south, what is south, north, east, west. I think that was a little tricky for me. A, I was out of the country for the first time, and B, I think expectations were high. When I came to Canada, I felt like everybody's lost. Everybody's helping everybody, and nobody mind if I ask once or twice, even if there is the staircase is right there in front of me and I'm still asking where is the staircase. They don't get angry with me. But in US, they're like, can't you see it's right there? So they didn't like that you need so much of help. But here in Canada, it was much cozy, much easy, and nobody was expecting you to know everything. They were okay. They knew that you will ask, and it was totally fine. So I think there is that big difference that I definitely see. And it was a relief too that I felt, okay, I belong here. It's okay if I make mistake, and it's okay if I'm lost or if I'm asking questions. So I think there is that difference.
What's your thoughts on the reasons for those kinds of differences?
I think in the basis of how people immigrate here, it's not very common that people just come to US, whole family. Either you have to go through student life and you get H-1B visa, which is like work permit, and then you bring family members. Again, they are dependent. So everybody in US is quite handpicked. You have to go through certain processes and then only you could be a part of the society. Whereas here, I think it's a little easier. I would say that people can come on PR with the whole family. So everybody is like new, right? Or even students, you can study here just in 1 year and then you can still get work study permit. Whereas in US, at least when I was trying to immigrate, it was difficult to get 1 year program and based on that, getting another work permit. I think it's a little easier in Canada to immigrate. So that way, everybody is new and everybody understands that. Whereas in US, it's difficult.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about your background as a talent acquisition professional and where that started.
That's a good question. After I graduated back then in India, I was an IT graduate. So I joined a software development company and I was an IT consultant. So most of our clientele were in US. So I used to make calls and used to get the leads. So basically marketing about our software development services. So I think from there, I started learning about the US culture because first I had to actually learn that there are 50 states out there, how to pronounce them, have to pronounce the name of the people there before I make a call and all those etiquettes. My first time, I even didn't know the Bill and William both are same person because if somebody's William, they call them Bill. And I thought they're two different people. So I learned a lot over there and almost 3 years I was doing that. So basically I was the person who was bringing in the clients, bringing in new business. I knew their requirements. And then I was passing along this information to other managers to find a programmer so that they can work on their project. So almost after 3 years or so, my manager one day called me and he said, you know what, you know their requirements better. Why to keep a middleman? Why don't you start hiring for them as well? So I said, okay. And I started hiring the programmers. It was mainly Java developers or front-end developers. So all those people who were working on those projects. And then later on, we introduced SEO, which was like search engine optimization. So again, I was not part of it, but I was very curious to learn about that technology. And for me, it was very magical that you do some process behind and then company's website will come on the first page of Google. I thought, wow, this is amazing. How do you do that? So I get 1 month training and my manager said, if I train you, I want to use it. So now hire SEO developers and SEO technicians. So I started doing that. Then after one day, he said that, you know what? We need content because if you do SEO project, you need content writers. We had only one content writer at that time and we were far behind the process. So one day my manager said, everybody stop doing work, just write one article. So for the first time that day, I wrote one article just because I had to. Next morning, he called me. He said, did you write this article? I said, yes, sir. He said, it's very good. I said, thank you, sir. He said, no, I don't want you to write good article. I want you to write in bulk. Don't spend too much time. What you are producing is right, but then I don't want quality. I want quantity. I said, sorry, sir, I cannot compromise on quality. So then next day he said, okay, so why don't you hire content writers and edit their work? So that's how I started hiring programmers and then SEO people and then content writers and then editing their work. And then they were all freelancers. So we needed only 7 people, but they come and go. So I said, okay, I'll make a team of 15. My manager said, I don't mind how many people you hire, but I will only pay if their content passed through. I said, fine. So I created a team of 15 freelance content writers. I was editing their work, managing their work. I had all the right to hire them, fire them, discipline them. So that was very exciting for me. Slowly and gradually, things kept on adding into my profile. And there was a time when I was doing 7 projects at a time, morning 9 to evening 9. And then I said, I need to really streamline. But what I'm trying to say is that I didn't understand at that time, but I was actually shaping up as a talent acquisition professional because for that, I needed office administration. I need to hire. I also need to manage a team. I also need to learn how to develop content. I also need to know how to do project management. I also need to know how to do SEO. So today, if I'm writing content or I understand keywords, that all started over there. And then I was mainly focusing on recruiting for all the aspects of our business. And then when I wanted to come to Canada, I really wanted to study before I actually apply something. So I studied HR management here. I passed my exam of CHRP, certified HR professional, but then I was a little confused as to should I do HR or I should continue with recruiting? Because again, country was different, market was different. I was not sure what I'll enjoy here. So I did 2 internships, one for HR, one for recruiting. But again, I didn't like HR. I continued doing. And then, things keep on rolling. One more thing that when I was in India, I had no idea about agency work. It was all in-house. At least I was not aware about it. So when I came here, everybody said you should work in agency because that's when you hone your skills and you learn a lot. So I joined agency initially and then again, I jumped back into IT recruiting and then I went into cybersecurity for in-house. So my journey in Canada was again quite dynamic and I ended up working with Robert Herjavec, with one of the investors on ABC Shark Tank. So I think that was the highlight for me.